Hi guys, I'm Andy. Welcome back to Backpacking UK, the YouTube channel that's all about hiking, backpacking and wild camping. Right, today I kind of got two reviews in one. So the main purpose of today's video is which 3F UL Gear Lanshan 2 tent should you buy, but we'll also be discussing the benefits and the drawbacks of single wall tents, double wall tents and hybrid tents. So today I've got three tents to show you. So I've got the standard 3F UL Gear Lanshan 2 solid 4-season tent, the 3F UL Gear Lanshan 2 Pro 3-season tent, and then the 3F UL Gear Lanshan 2 Pro 4-season tent. So these are the models available to you. You'll be very surprised to see the difference in weight and pack size. But today we're going to have a good look inside them because that is where the differences lie between these tents. So first up, this is the Lanshan 2 Pro 3-season. So this is a proper summer tent. It's full mesh inside. It's like a hybrid. So you've got single wall on both ends, and on the sides you've just got see-through mesh, and right there at the bottom you got some see-through mesh there. Now the beauty of this tent is it's absolutely massive inside. Because there's no inner, you've got the full height of the tent and you've got no fabric sagging at the sides as well. It's absolutely huge tent, but anything other than summer, and this tent is absolutely freezing cold to use. So next up we've got the Lanshan 2 Pro 4-season tent. So straight away, massive difference. So it's still a hybrid tent, so you still got single skin at both ends, but on the sides you've got all this solid fabric with a little bit of see-through mesh at the top. You've also got some see-through mesh at the ends as well to aid with ventilation. Now this is a lot darker inside, so it's quite nice when you've got those lighter mornings. The sides definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, stop those chilly winds from entering the tent. However, like I've experienced, unfortunately for me, the ends with those little mesh vents can let that freezing cold air through the tent. But it's definitely not a 4-season tent, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So last up we've got the original Lanshan 2 4-season. So this has got solid fabric throughout. It's a double wall tent, so it's got a proper inner. As you can see, it's completely separated between the two here, so it's more of a traditional tent. Solid fabric absolutely everywhere, solid ends. You just got this little bit of mesh at the top, but again this is a much darker tent in the lighter months, but without a shadow of a doubt it's much warmer. So as you can see, they all pack up roughly about the same size. So you're talking roughly about 35 centimeters by 15 centimeters, but there's hardly any difference. This is the 3-season single wall, the 4-season single wall, and the double wall 4-season, and there's nothing in it really at all. This also applies to DCF tents. Yes, DCF fabrics are super light, but they're not actually that compact. So you'll find a DCF tent will quite often have the same pack size as a seal poly tent or a seal nylon tent. So this is the packed weight including pegs. So I've got 1,045 grams for the single wall 3-season. Then I've got 1,096 grams, and that's for the single full wool 4-season. And then the last one, the double wool 4-season, is 1,186 grams. So there really isn't much between all three. From the heaviest to the lightest, you're talking less than 150 grams. So should you buy a single wool tent? Now, the benefits in theory are less weight, smaller pack size, more internal space, easier to pitch. However, condensation can be an absolute killer of these tents. Can be really quite bad, especially in the mornings. If you touch that fly, chances are you're going to get your clothing wet, your hair wet, your sleeping bag wet. If you're moving stuff around your tent, you're going to get that wet. It can be an absolute nightmare. Obviously, you can mitigate that by having a little sponge like I carry with me. Weighs absolutely nothing. The first thing I do in the morning is just give everything a good wipe down. I'll also open both doors, try and get that airflow through as much as possible, just to try and get rid of that condensation before packing up. The biggest downside for me though, without a shadow of a doubt, full mesh tent, they're so cold. They're so cold. I see lots of people wild camping at the moment with their nice ultra lightweight DCF tents, full mesh. I mean, apart from the absolute hottest of nights in the UK, that tent is useless for most of the year. It really is. So certainly for me personally, I think there's a lot of drawbacks with a 3-season single walled tent. So what about the 4-season single wall version? Well, certainly for me personally, I love the fact it stops a lot of those cold drafts. The weight difference is just negligible, and the pack size. And one thing you'll often quite find is, not so much on these tents, but on other tents, sometimes the see-through mesh is actually a thicker fabric than the solid fabric. So that might be a 20D inner, that might be a 15D inner. So that's something to consider. Just because it's see-through mesh doesn't mean it's lighter. So this is, for me, much nicer to have than this. It's much usable for more of the year. However, especially at the ends, it has woken me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, the coldest part of the night. You got that chilly wind ripping through the bottom of the tent. So what about a double walled 4-season version? Now, without a shadow of a doubt, you are going to get much more use out of this tent. Now, for me personally, I see this as a 2-season tent. I see that as a 3-season tent, and I see this as really a 3+ season tent. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a trekking pole tent. I personally wouldn't call any trekking pole tent a true 4-season tent. However, for me, I love the double wall version, but there's a lot less space inside, and it's not just these tents. I've had a Durston X Mid solid, which I find the inner just really takes most of the space away from you. However, the single wall DCF version feels like a palace inside. So the outside dimensions are exactly the same, but there's a huge difference between a single wall and a double version. So really, what I'm sort of trying to say, and what I've sort of come to here, because these are all 2-person tents, for 1 person, the standard double wall version has still got loads and loads of space, but it takes the chills away from you. And you can use it for so much more of the year. This is such a better buy. Then you've got the 3-season full mesh inner version. For me, this isn't really for UK use, only on the absolute hottest of nights, because sometimes we get hot days here but the nights really cool down, but you need a warm night to use this tent. That's a true summer tent. And then you've got the 4-season inner single wall version. Now this can really be used for a lot of the summer, like late spring, all of summer, early autumn. This is also a sort of a much better buy, I personally think, as well. So for the negligible weight difference, for the negligible pack size difference, for me, for one person, that's a clear winner. For 2 people, to be fair, this might be the clear winner, but for UK use, I'm just not convinced with this. So one thing I will say with these is these have got the sort of L shape U-zips, this one and this one. This one came from Campalists and has got a T-zip. If you think sort of Hilleberg, Alac, you can zip the whole thing away, open up the whole sides. I would say whichever model you go, get on Campalists websites and get the T-zip version. For me, they're so much better, it doesn't cost any more money. And talking about costs, the difference between these 3 is also quite negligible as well. So the cost isn't really a factor. But to finish off, one thing I will say is whichever 3F UL Gear Lanshan 2 tent you do buy, they are outstanding value for money. They really are. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They're all around about £150. This is like ultralight backpacking gear. This is a 2-person tent for about 1 kilo, give or take. That's unbelievable. And these have been tried and tested. They're so popular. You look online, these have been all around the world in all sorts of conditions. They're absolutely cracking tents. And there's no way you can be a gear snob about these, not at all. They are just truly superb. But hopefully you like this review. Hopefully it's helped you understand the difference between double wall and single wall tents, and also 3-season and 4-season tents as well, with that see-through mesh and solid mesh. But if you've got any questions, stick them in the comments section. But I'd really appreciate it if you could check out some of my other videos too. But I hope to see you world camping soon. Cheers.